Nobody tells you this at church. Nobody steps up to the pulpit and says, "Yeah, I also wake up in the middle of the night, losing a battle I can't even put into words." Nobody admits it, but everybody lives it. You know that Sunday morning smile? That, "I'm good, brother, God is faithful"? Behind it, there's a guy who cried in the bathroom before leaving the house. There's a woman who cleared her phone history for the 3rd time this week. There's someone who prayed in the morning and fell at night. And now they're not sure they even have the right to talk to God anymore. And the worst part isn't the fall, it's the silence after. This conversation that nobody wants to have. That's exactly what we're having right now. My name is George. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay till the end. Because what you're about to hear might be the first time someone puts into words what you feel but can't say. You're seeing what's going on in the world right now, right? The US and Iran in open war. Bombs falling on Tehran. Missiles crossing the Gulf. The whole planet watching, commenting, picking sides. But I want to talk about a different war. One that doesn't show up on any newscast, yours. Because while the world is watching live explosions, there are people fighting a battle inside their own chest that nobody films, nobody reports on, nobody even notices. And this war, for someone who carries a calling, is just as real as any conflict between nations. Except the bombs are thoughts. The trenches are at 3 a.m., and the battlefield is the silence of your bedroom. Have you ever noticed how some fights seem to only exist inside of you? On the outside, everything looks fine. You go to church, you serve, you smile. On the inside, there's a war that won't stop. Thoughts you didn't invite. Desires that show up without asking permission. A tiredness that's not in your body, it's in your soul. And on top of all that, the guilt. Always the guilt. What nobody tells you is that this war doesn't show up in just anyone. It tends to hit the people who carry something bigger. People with spiritual sensitivity feel the friction between what God is shaping and what still needs healing. That doesn't make you fake. It makes you human. It makes you someone in process. There are days you wake up determined. Today's gonna be different. And by mid-afternoon, you're already drained, vulnerable, almost giving in. That's not a lack of faith. That's the reality of living in an imperfect body, with a spirit that wants more. The mistake is thinking that tension pushes you away from God, when most of the time, it's the exact path He uses to pull you closer. Fighting what drags you down isn't spiritual weakness, it's awareness. Someone who already gave up doesn't feel any conflict. Someone who quit sleeps just fine. If you still feel the weight, if you still try to get back up after falling, something inside you is alive and refuses to surrender. God works where it hurts, where you can't fix it on your own. That's where real dependence is born. And depending on God isn't weakness. It's what keeps your heart lined up with heaven. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that only people fighting this war understand. You try to explain it to someone, and they hit you with a memorized Bible verse, like a pretty sentence is gonna fix years of inner battle. So you stop talking. You isolate. You pretend everything's fine. But silence that goes on too long hurts worse than the fight itself. Now burn this into your mind. Fighting doesn't take you out of your purpose. Quitting the fight does. The path of the chosen was never the absence of war. It was faithfulness in the middle of it. You stumble and keep going. You get lost and come back. That holy stubbornness of not letting go builds something deep that nobody sees right now. But that's gonna hold up everything God prepared for you. And God isn't disappointed when you struggle. He draws closer. He sees the intention of your heart, not just the scoreboard. He knows every rough night, every whispered cry for help. None of it goes unnoticed. One day you're gonna look back and understand that it was on this invisible battlefield where your real strength was born. Not as someone perfect, but as someone real, refined, and ready to carry what God decided to trust you with. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that things get heavier right when you decide to change? You quit drinking. The next week, 3 buddies invite you out. You decide to fast. Out of nowhere, your coworker shows up with pizza at lunch. You start praying every morning. And then the phone rings, the kids crying, the neighbor blasts music, and before you know it, it's 11 o'clock and you haven't prayed a single minute. Coincidence? Maybe. But anyone who goes through this every single time they try to move forward knows something else is going on. It's just like what we're seeing in this conflict between the US and Iran. The strikes didn't come when Iran was sitting still. They came right when the country was negotiating, trying to reach an agreement. The pressure ramped up at the exact moment something could have changed. And that doesn't just happen in geopolitics, it happens in your life too. When you start becoming a threat, you become a target. Simple as that. Nobody wastes ammo on someone sitting on the couch, binging Netflix. The attack comes against the one who got up, who made a decision, who's actually going somewhere. If the pressure got heavier in your life, it might mean you're closer to a breakthrough than you think. And look at how this plays out in real life. The guy who decided to break free from a secret habit, he's not attacked in the street. He's attacked at 11 at night, alone, tired, phone in hand. The woman who decided to forgive her ex, she's not attacked at Sunday service. She's attacked when she sees his photo on Instagram and the rage comes rushing back. The teenager who decided to take faith seriously, he gets roasted by his friends, cut from the group chat, called a freak. The battlefield isn't where you expect it. It's in the everyday. In the grocery store line when impatience kicks in traffic when somebody cuts you off, at the family gathering when that one relative pokes the wound that never healed. That's where the extraordinary gets tested, in the ordinary. The Bible is full of people who were attacked before they fulfilled their purpose. David was hunted by Saul for years before he ever sat on the throne. It wasn't because God forgot about him. It was because what was ahead was too big for someone who hadn't been tested at that level. The persecution matched the promise. And the attack almost never comes from the outside. It comes from within. Repetitive thoughts, guilt that won't let go. That voice saying, just quit. You've already gone too far, there's no coming back. That's the most effective blow. It's not about knocking you down. It's about convincing you it's not worth getting back up. But look, falling isn't the end. It never was. You might have fallen last night. You might have given in to the thing you swore you'd never do again. That's okay. The fall revealed your humanity. It didn't cancel your calling. Something is being built inside you while you resist. Even on the days when it feels like nothing changed, something matured. Discernment, patience, a sensitivity to recognize a trap before you walk into it. Diamonds don't form on the surface. When the attack is heavy, it's because the destiny is high. You're not fighting for nothing. Keep going, even exhausted, even thinking nobody notices. I'm going to be straight with you. We live in an age where everything pulls you down. You open your phone in the morning and before you read a single verse, you've already seen 3 things you shouldn't have. The algorithm knows your weaknesses better than your friends do. And it delivers exactly what's going to make you trip, wrapped up in a way that looks harmless. Purity. Today, that word almost sounds outdated. Talk about purity and people picture someone uptight, repressed, old-fashioned. But that's not what it is. Purity is freedom. It's laying down at night without needing to clear your browser history. It's looking in the mirror without turning away. It's not carrying the weight of something nobody saw, but you know you did. And this is one of the loneliest wars out there. Because it happens where nobody's watching. In your room, in the bathroom, in those 15 minutes between tasks when you're bored and the phone's right there. Nobody's gonna call you out. Nobody's gonna know. And that's exactly why it's so hard. Think about Joseph in Egypt. The guy was a slave, far from his family, no one to be accountable to. Potiphar's wife offered everything the flesh wanted. He could have given in and nobody would have ever known. But Joseph ran, literally ran. He didn't say, "I can't because my dad will find out." He said, "How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" His motivation wasn't fear of getting caught. It was awareness of who he was before God, even when nobody else was looking. And what happened next? He got thrown in prison, unjustly. Doing the right thing cost him. Because sometimes you make the right choice and life gets worse. You resist temptation, and the next day you lose your job. You cut off a toxic friendship and end up alone. Obedience doesn't always come with an immediate reward, but it comes with positioning. Joseph went from prison straight to the palace. Integrity in secret opened a door that no human strategy could have opened. Now, I know there's someone hearing this and thinking, "George, you don't know what I've done." You're right. I don't. But God does. And His grace is bigger than your worst moment. You don't need to be perfect to start over. You just gotta be honest. Every time you say no, even shaking, even wanting to cave, something gets stronger inside you. What you overcome today in the silence of your room is gonna be the foundation for what God builds tomorrow in your public life. And purity isn't about never failing. It's about always coming back. It's falling on Tuesday and being on your knees on Wednesday. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. Where are you walking? That's the point. The enemy's gonna tell you this war is impossible to win. He'll remind you of every time you tried and failed. But he's lying. He always lies. Because if it were truly impossible, he wouldn't need to spend so much energy trying to convince you to give up. Every decision toward purity is a seed planted in the invisible. It might not bloom today, but a seed growing underground doesn't make a sound. And when it breaks through the soil, nothing holds it back. Let me ask you a question that maybe nobody's ever asked you. Is there something in your life you've begged God to take away and He just didn't? I'm not talking about small stuff. I'm talking about that thing. The one that's been with you for months, years maybe. Maybe it's a habit nobody knows about. An insecurity that freezes you before any decision. A relationship that ended, but the pain didn't end with it. That anxiety that hits at 2 in the afternoon, middle of the workday, for no reason at all. And you gotta pretend everything's normal while your chest is pounding. You've prayed about it. Maybe a lot of times, and nothing changed. And the question that keeps hammering is, God, are you even listening? Paul lived this, and when I say Paul, I mean the guy who wrote most of the New Testament, who survived shipwrecks, stoning, prison. He carried something he called a thorn in the flesh, and he asked God to remove it 3 times, with faith, with authority, with everything he had. And God said no, not, hold on a sec, not, I'll get to it later. No. The answer was, my grace is sufficient for you. I know that's hard to hear, but listen to what comes after. God didn't say, figure it out. He said, I'm here and that's enough. The pain stays, but He stays with it. And here's the most powerful part. Paul didn't stop. He kept planting churches, kept traveling, kept writing letters that we're still reading 2,000 years later. With the thorn. Not despite it, with it. The pain became part of the road, not a detour. You know what I think happens? When everything's going too well, we forget about God. Not out of malice, just human nature. You get the promotion, the relationship's going great, and suddenly those 30 minutes of prayer turn into 5. The thorn is what keeps you from getting comfortable. It's the daily reminder that without Him, you don't function. There's a verse in Isaiah that talks about the furnace of affliction. Nobody puts gold in fire to destroy it. They put it in to purify it. And the goldsmith doesn't leave the room while the gold's in there. He stays, watching, controlling. He knows the exact moment to pull it out. Maybe you feel like you're melting, like you can't take one more day of living like this. Smiling at work, holding back tears in the car, falling apart in the shower where nobody can hear. I get it, and God gets it more than I do. But the fire isn't abandonment, it's process. It's Him removing things that would have tripped you up down the road. When all of that melts away, what's left is gold. And clean gold shines in a way nobody can ignore. If you're not strong today, that's okay. Stop pretending you are. God didn't ask for a performance. He asked for truth. And sometimes the most powerful prayer is the simplest one. I can't take it, but I'm not walking away. The thorn doesn't cancel your calling. It proves you need God to fulfill it. And that need, raw, real, no filter, is what keeps you in the only place where everything makes sense. Everybody's got a story they hide. That chapter you skip when someone asks about your life. The year you pretend didn't happen. Maybe it was the time you spent drinking too much. Maybe it was the relationship that wrecked you from the inside. Maybe it was something you did that hurt somebody. And to this day, when the quiet comes at night, the guilt shows back up. Then you look at other people at church, the ones who seem to have it all together, and you think, I'm not like them, I've got a past. If they knew what I've done, nobody would sit next to me. But those people have a hidden chapter too. Everybody does. Some just got better at hiding it. God never went looking for people with clean resumes. If He did, the Bible would be a real short book. Moses killed a man and ran into the desert. David committed adultery and had the woman's husband killed. Peter denied Jesus 3 times on the night he needed a friend the most. None of them were thrown away. All of them were restored. The scar stayed, but so did the purpose. God uses people who know what rock bottom feels like, because those are the ones who can look at someone stuck in a pit and say with honesty, I know what it's like. I've been right where you are. And that sentence, coming from someone who actually lived it, carries a weight that no rehearsed sermon ever could. When you share that you went through depression, an addiction, a marriage that almost fell apart, and that God held you through it, something lights up in the other person's heart. They think, if God did that for him, maybe He'll do it for me too. Revelation 12:11 says they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. The blood redeems, but the testimony reaches. Your story, told by someone who lived it, carries an authority that goes beyond any theory. And I know it's scary. Talking about what you've been through puts you in a vulnerable spot. Some might judge, but the ones who need to hear it are gonna thank you, because you'll be the first person who had the guts to say out loud what they only think about alone, face buried in the pillow. Your scar is a map. It shows the way for someone still lost in the same place you came out of. Stop editing your past to make it look more presentable. What broke you became raw material in God's hands. You're alive. You're standing. Your scar is proof that God didn't just heal you. He equipped you to help heal others. I need to tell you something that might change the way you see everything you're going through right now. This war you think is destroying you, it's building you. I know it doesn't feel that way. Sounds like nice talk from someone watching from the sidelines. But hear me out for a second. You ever seen how they train Special Forces soldiers? In the United States, Navy SEAL training has a phase called Hell Week. 5.5 days with no sleep, ice-cold water, Exercises until your body shuts down. Instructors screaming that you're not enough. Over 75% of candidates drop out. The ones who stay aren't the strongest physically. They're the ones who decided they weren't leaving. That's exactly what's happening to you in the spirit. God isn't punishing you. He's revealing you, showing you what you're actually made of. Because what He's planned to put in your hands requires a level of preparation most people couldn't handle. Think about your job. The employee who never went through a crisis, never dealt with a difficult client. Does that person get promoted? Hardly ever. The one who moves up is the one who's been through the fire and is still there. The enemy confirms this. He doesn't waste energy on someone who's standing still. If the pressure's heavy in your life, it's because something inside you is dangerous to hell. The intensity of the attack reveals the size of what's being prepared. The areas where you take the most hits, those might be the exact places where God is going to use you with the most power. Because when you overcome there, you'll have real authority to speak on it. Authority that doesn't come from a degree. It comes from a scar. I talk to a lot of people who tell me, "George, I think I lost my calling." And I always say the same thing. If you'd lost it, you wouldn't miss it. The fact that it hurts proves it's still alive inside you. If callings got erased by falls, God would have given up on Peter after the first denial. Would have scratched David after Bathsheba. Would have tossed Jonah when he ran the other way. Your calling is still standing. Even if you're on the ground right now, even if this week's been the worst of the year, the calling stands. Because it doesn't depend on your perfection. It depends on God's decision. And God doesn't change His mind. Every time you say no to what drags you down, heaven takes note. Every time you fall and choose to come back, something gets stronger. So here's what I'm gonna ask you. Change the way you look at this war. Stop seeing it as punishment. Every hard night, every prayer in the dark, every day you chose to keep going without understanding why, all of it is being recorded. And soon, what was formed in the silence is gonna show up in a way you can't even imagine yet. Say it right now, even if your voice cracks. My calling is bigger than my struggle. Say it again until your soul believes it, because it's true. We started this conversation talking about wars. The one out there in the world, missiles, explosions, nations in shock, and yours in here, silent, no cameras, no war correspondents narrating every battle. But I'm telling you, both require the same thing: endurance. The decision to stay on the field even when everything inside you is screaming to run. Look, I don't know your name. I don't know what brought you to this video. But if you stayed till now, something here hit a nerve. And pain with that kind of precision isn't a coincidence. Entire nations need support to stay standing during a war. Armies depend on supplies, on logistics, on people who believe in the cause, even without being on the front lines. This channel works the same way. Every person who contributes keeps this message reaching where it needs to go. Into someone's room, at 3 a.m., in the hour it hurts the most. If you can and want to be part of that, the link's in the description. Now tell me in the comments, which line hit you the hardest? Drop this: "I'm still in the fight." Because when you write that, it's not just for me. It's for someone scrolling through the comments today who needs to read those exact words. Your war has purpose. And the God who called you before you had any strength is still holding you up right now, even when you think you can't take one more day. Keep going. Heaven sees you.